Right, guys, this is a book written by Maria. This is one of the books for, well, clears the air by speaking the unspeakable. Clears the air about speaking the unspeakable. No Kids is a book designed to cause a stir and cause a stir. It has a lot of people have been commenting on YouTube about this book. Originally published in France, by the author is Korea Maria, lives in Brussels, and yeah, she says a lot about that. But if you go on YouTube, I took this from a YouTube clip, and she talks about things that people don't talk about, and she's not afraid of saying what she regrets, and she's trying to warn women about the decisions that they make when deciding, whether they want to have kids or not. So yeah, watch the clip and tell me what you think, and have your own opinion. Leave your comment below. Tell me what you think about this lady who talks about not having kids and warning people about. So it says that she describing children as a little savages, warning women that kids are the death to desire, and relies heaping scorn on all the inner activities she says motherhood requires, such as visiting Disneyland. And yeah, this book has been known to rub many people the wrong way, but kudos to Maria's radical honesty in openly expressing regret at her decision to having children and not choose the child-free life. So tell me what you think about this, guys. Watch the clip.
But it's not as simple as that. Depending on your culture, religion, upbringing, background, you might have very different pressures put on you as a potential parent. Asma and Vanessa are both mums now, but felt pressure from their communities when they were trying to get pregnant.
There's almost like a silent time constraint they put on married couples. I think probably as soon as you walk back down the aisle and you're married, they already start looking down to see if you're pregnant. It's a very pronatalist community in terms of the black community with women. I think there's just this belief. It's almost like it goes in stages. There's almost an expectation that you will obviously go through higher education or go through university, get a good job. Next thing is get married and then also have kids. And I think what's missing from that is that isn't so plain sailing with every couple. So I think within particular cultures, that it really is a big thing. I think there's status involved in being a mother.
We had been married for 2 years at that time, and then people's expectation was, when are you having kids? You don't want kids. Is that because you're working? Is that because you're too busy? And so forth. And at first you just shrug it off and you think, it's down to my husband and I, and we're trying, and, it's not happening. But the more you hear from people, and then you see family members with kids as well, and it really, really starts to hit home.
I wanted to speak to someone who has had children and now questions that decision.
Having children means less opportunity, less fun, less freedom, less money, less sex.
Corinne Mayer has written a book called No Kids, 40 Good Reasons Not to Have Children, and it contains chapters like The Parent's Worst Nightmares and Your Kid Will Always Disappoint You.
I'm a quite happy person by my own, so I know where my happiness is and I don't need others to find it. In fact, I didn't need my children to find happiness. Now that they are grown-ups, I'm a quite happy person. I don't see them very often and I think it's great. I have less problem. I know where my freedom is. Having to care for people is a huge burden. I'm more selfish, and I'm very proud to say that being selfish sometimes is a very good thing.
To be honest, I found what Corinne said really refreshing. She was completely honest about what she wanted to do and not what was expected of her. But to be a child of someone who regrets you is far from easy.
My mum has been pretty open and vocal about it. I do feel guilty for all the things she hasn't been able to do and all the dreams she hasn't been able to chase. But at the same time, I kind of feel like, well, if that's the decision you make, you have to live with it. And in my case, I want to make sure that's not the decision I make so that I don't have to live with it.
There are plenty of people out there living with it. I found a Facebook group called I Regret Having Children that describes itself as a support group for overwhelmed parents. Over 13,000 people like the page. Some of the anonymous posts are pretty heart-wrenching. It made me realise how many people could avoid all that pain and sadness by just being able to say, I don't want kids, without any fear of judgment.
People really see it as an unnatural thing, as something that's against nature, something that you shouldn't feel. And I think it's really dangerous when you start telling people what they shouldn't feel and what they shouldn't do with their own bodies.
There are many reasons why a person might not want to have a child or might not be able to have a child. And I don't think we should pressure people. I think rather we as a society have to do some introspection. If people don't want to have children, that is, if people don't think that our society is worth perpetuating, what have we done wrong?
So I don't feel that much closer to being able to make a decision about whether or not I should try for kids. Do I take a chance that I'll develop those feelings of patience and selflessness that are so important to being a good parent? Do I wait until the time's right for me and just hope that my body's up to the task? Or do I say, go for it, now's the time, and just hope that I'm not one of those parents who lives to regret it?
When your children are grown-ups, you don't recognize at all the reason why you had them, because they are so different than what you expected, what you dreamt. It can be a good surprise, but it can be a bad surprise. You never know.
Perhaps I was a bit naive in thinking that I wouldn't get that much backlash and that I would mostly get support from people in the same situation, and that was not the case. The stigma around not having kids, it seems to fall entirely on women, and I think it's because it plays into some ancient, obsolete, nonsense gender role around being a mother and that being why you're on earth and it being the point of your life. And I think if people find fulfillment in it, that's wonderful, but I don't think women who have kids are in any way just mothers and just parents.
That was one of the biggest voices of the community that I had to hear from people. Oh, it's all her fault. She can't have kids, that's what happens when you get married later in life, and that's what happens when you have a career, you don't want kids and so forth. And I thought, whoa, everyone's so quick to blame the female.
What I do know is that regardless of your upbringing, your background, your culture, your family, you should feel empowered to make that decision about whether or not you should reproduce, not feel obliged. And I think we as a society need to get a whole lot more accepting of those who decide not to have children.